How you doing? And welcome to my channel. Today, as you can see, I'm having a look at X-23 from Deadpool and Wolverine, Laura Kinney. Just having a quick look at the box there. You can see we have an image of Laura there at the front. I believe that is the figure, but like some of the other Wolverine figures, there is a bit of a filter over it to make it look more arty. But as far as I can tell, that is the figure. We have the 3 slashes through the box, just like all the other Deadpool Wolverine figures. This time we have a black background on it. On the side we have an extension to those slashes and X-23 MMS 781 written on the side. And on the back we have the usual warnings and details about hot toys. And when I pull this sleeve off, I would encourage you to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. On the back there, just like all the other Deadpool and Wolverine figures, we have an image of the figure at the bottom here. And above that, we have the Deadpool and Wolverine logo with the Wolverine claws ripping through the Deadpool logo. So there we have it for a quick look at the box for Laura Kinney. So moving on, let's have a quick pan of the figure itself. So here we are for a quick pan of Laura Kinney, aka X-23. And I'm just going to go through kind of our origins or our comic book background while we do this pan. And her first appearance was in the animated show X-Men Evolution in 2003, created by Craig Kyle and Chris Yost. And then she got a comic book appearance where she showed up in NYX, which focused on teenage mutants in New York, which she made her debut in issue number 3, I think. And because of the adult themes of NYX, it's quite often been disregarded. It's very adult themed, so it was quite often, overlooked as her origin story. But the next time we seen her was in Uncanny X-Men number 450 to 451, and also disregarded for the most part. Her more notable origin story came along in 2005, comic book run of 6 issues called Innocence Lost. And in 2007 we got X-23 Target X, which retcons some of the stuff that we got in Uncanny X-Men episode 450, 451. And then she appears in X-Force number 128. Then we got X-23 2010, her very first solo comic. She also appears in Avengers Academy 2010 and Avengers Arena 2013, I think. Then in 2014 we got the Logan Legacy, and then we got all new Wolverine 2015, which was her introduction as the new Wolverine basically. Then we got her first live action appearance in 2017 in Logan, played by Daphne Keane, as we see here. And then we got her, as we see her now, this older version of her in 2024 in Deadpool and Wolverine. So that's a quick recap. I might have missed out a couple of comics, especially in between Logan and Deadpool and Wolverine. There's definitely some other comics in between that I haven't mentioned, and I'm pretty sure I have all the dates on the releases of those correct as well, but somebody might be able to correct me if I've gotten some of those dates wrong. So here we are for all of the accessories that come with X-23. You can see we have 8 hands in total. They're very, very small hands on a very, very petite figure, so there isn't a whole heap of detail on them. They're very difficult to get so much detail on such small hands. But you can see we have 2 hands there for gripping maybe her backpack, 2 closed fist hands, 2 bladed closed fist hands, and 2 quite aggressive looking bladed hands here, as you can see. Quite the aggressive pose on them, which look really good. All the wraps around her forehand and her palm, as she should. And the blades, just like the Wolverine figures, made out of a molded plastic, unfortunately. And then we have her sunglasses that she puts on in the movie, and these carry over from the glasses she's wearing as a child in Logan. So it was a nice little nod to the movie, to Logan, when she puts those glasses on in the movie, and they are detailed enough, a little bit translucent and quite well detailed. And unfortunately, I haven't got those in focus, so I do apologize, but I assure you, they're quite nice. Then we have these foot blades here. And if I just grab the figure here, what we have here, I'll just bring this light up just a little bit for this part here. We have a little section here at the front of the boot at the toe area that's magnetized and comes off. And you just pop the blades on there. Is that the right one? One does fit nicer than the other. They are specific as far as I can tell. Let me just double check. No, I was right the first time around. You can see that they magnetize on the front, and like I said, I do think they are specific because this one fits so much better than the other one. And yeah, I think they are specific, but you can see there that they just magnetize on, and it's nice to have that option to pose her with the blades coming out of our feet. And these little pieces here, these little sections are very little small, very little, very small, and they do have to be looked after, very easily lost, I do imagine. And then we have Juggernaut's helmet, and I'm gonna bring the light back down again for this. Juggernaut's helmet, we do know the significance of this in the movie, where they do have to acquire Juggernaut's helmet from him, and X-23 does succeed in getting the helmet off him, because they do need it to put over Cassandra Nova's head to prevent her from performing any mind tricks or getting into people's minds. You can see the detail on it there. It's like this copper wire effect running through the inside of it there, exposed by damage. I'm not sure whether this is supposed to be made of a metal or a concrete. Juggernaut's quite a big guy, so I wouldn't be surprised if he was wearing a big cement block on his head. Nice little bit of detail running through it there, more that copper wire effect running through the top of it. And it is painted quite nice. Like I said, it's painted where it kind of looks like stone to me than a metal, but I'm not 100% sure on that. You can see all the cracks in it as well. That kind of indicates to me that it's supposed to be a concrete effect or a stone effect than actual metal, but I could be wrong. But a nice accessory to have. And then we have her backpack or her rucksack that she wears in the movie, and another carryover from Logan is this horse on the bag. Now, I did think that this was supposed to be a unicorn. For some reason in my head canon it was a unicorn, but in this specific figure it's actually only a horse. So I don't know if my head canon is incorrect, but it's a nice little feature to have on the bag. It's a nice little detail to have on the bag. Pleather patches on the sides of it. No branding on it. A functioning buckle. It does function. If I can just pinch it there and get it to open up, it does function. You can see it's packed with some kind of foam or some sort of material in there just to bulk it out a little bit. And we do have the drawstrings on it as well, which is a nice little bit of detail. And I'll just clip this closed again without anything snapping or breaking. There we go. On the back we have the mesh effect, and then we have the straps that are quite well detailed as well. And I have an issue with this bag that we'll get into next when we're finished with this section here. Then we have her hair attachments, and you can see there, I'm going to bring this light up again for this bit. We have her hair attachments, one more dynamic than the other. This one here on the right is straight down for less of a dynamic pose, and this one here on the left, which is much wavier than the other one. And we have the magnets down the back where it attaches to the back of her head. And it's nice to have the options, although her face expression, a facial expression for me, doesn't really match this dynamic hair. It more matches the straight down, relaxed look, because it's such a stoic look on her face. I would have liked an angry expression, Laura, but we can't have everything. So there we are for the accessories. So moving on. As I was talking about there about the bag, the issue I have with the bag, and it's very disappointing. We have our rucksack here, or our backpack, and if I just position our arms in the right place here to put the rucksack on, and just slide it through our arms there, and there is no way of getting this rucksack on her back convincingly at all, as far as I'm concerned. The molded hair gets in the way. You can't get it over her shoulders properly. It's just like I can move the hair and get it under her hair at the front, but the molded hair at the back causes problems. It really, really is disappointing that you can't put the rucksack on her back convincingly. Hot Toys could have given us maybe a third mold of the back of the hair to accommodate the rucksack going on her back, because that is not convincing at all. I it just doesn't look right at all. It, as you can see there, the way it sits up over the hair, it just doesn't look great at all. It just doesn't sit convincingly at all. Very disappointing, to be honest with you. I did want to pose it with the backpack on, but it's not going to happen. Just the way it sits over the hair like that. Like I said, the only way around that would have been for Hot Toys to have given us another mold for the hair to go over the straps. Just a third mold, to accommodate the backpack going on. So the option for me is not there for the rucksack on her back. It's just not there. It just doesn't look great at all. And I'll just bring the light up again there so we can see it a bit clearer. It just doesn't look very convincing. It's not so bad at the front there looking at it straight on, but the side profile, the way it comes up over the hair, it doesn't sit very naturally at all. It doesn't look great. Very disappointed in this, and a real oversight. Look at that there. That looks really terrible from looking down at it. It just doesn't sit very natural at all. And just not much we can do about it. They should have given us another mold, but that is something that I did want to point out, that putting the rucksack on her back it's kind of an option. It's an option if you don't mind how goofy it looks, but I think the majority of collectors would not be pleased with how that looks on her back. So that's that issue there out of the way. So moving on, the last of our kind of accessories or bits and pieces that come with her is our base. Quite a large footprint on this base. I mean, just looking at her standing on it there, her footprint on it there, there's a lot of room for her, but unfortunately it is very uneven, so you do need the pole and the crotch grabber. I like the flame effects on it. They're quite nicely done. They're acceptable. I'm pleased that they're there rather than not be there. It's nice to have, a bit more of a dynamic look to it with the flame effect on it. The rock effect on it is okay. It's alright. It's not too bad. I would say it's not as good as the rock effect on the brown and tan Wolverine, but it definitely looks the part. And it definitely looks like the ground where they're fighting in the void. So not too bad at all. A lot of different colours running through there. You can see that kind of mustardy colour there. There's a lot of crimson colours running through it, going into hints of pink. And then this white ashy effect running through it. Like I said, quite nicely done. Great paint apps. But what I do have a gripe with is what they've used for standing the figure up with. Not ideal. This is something they use for their bigger figures, for their quarter scale figures. So I don't know why they've used this on such a small petite figure, and I'll show you now what exactly I'm talking about. Just here, having her on the pole, I would have preferred a waist grabber on this figure, because just this single pole here that they've used, like I said, they usually use on the bigger figures or the quarter scales, it's not very aesthetically pleasing, is the best way to put it, to have this one bar poking out from in between her legs. It's not ideal. They could have come up with something better. A waist grabber would have suited this figure so much better. Some of the decisions by Hot Toys on this figure aren't great. So here we have X-23 standing pretty much straight up as she comes out of the box, and starting off in my usual form or fashion, we will have a look from bottom to top. You can see we have a split boot, which I wasn't expecting. I did find this out before I bought it, but I wasn't expecting it to have a split boot. It is a solid plastic, and it is a step backwards in my opinion. And we also have an articulated toe section too, which you can see the split in it there. Again, isn't ideal. It doesn't add to the realism. If anything, it takes away from it. You can see the flesh colour joint in there as well when the line catches it, which not ideal again. I'm not a fan of split boots. Anybody who's familiar with my channel knows I'm not a fan of split boots. And if you articulate at certain angles, I don't know why they didn't use a black peg. A black peg here would have made a huge difference for when you're articulating the figure and exposing that peg. It just would have hidden that peg a lot better. A little bit unfortunate. It does have a molded grip on the bottom of it, as it should have. Very Doc Martin style grip on it, and you can see we have the articulated toe section there. Nicely detailed in the sense that it has the straps all in the right places, a little bit of wash running through it, quite a thick heel on them as well, which is accurate. Just a little bit unfortunate that they had a split boot design, and I'm not sure why they didn't use the technology that they're using now with the softer plastic like they did with the Wolverine figures for the one piece. But again, it is what it is. Moving up to the trousers, she's wearing a kind of a pale slate grey kind of colour to them. No weathering on them whatsoever. Nothing at all, which I kind of would have expected there to be a little bit of weathering on them. She is in the void after all. And something that's been brought up many times at this stage, which is when she bends her knee. If I can get her to bend, it's quite tight. It's a little bit of a hideous knee joint. Now it's not too bad. It's not as bad as maybe the prototype that was shown. I think they sorted it out from the prototype because, okay, it is a little bit lumpy when she bends her knee, but it's not as egregious as it was in those prototype pictures. I think Hot Toys refined that, although there is that little bit of a lump there. And even when she articulates up at the hip flexors there, the joint pinches the jeans, which kind of takes away from the realism. It's not egregious, they just sink in a little bit, but it's not atrocious. It still looks the part. The pockets are stitched on okay. I'm not a big fan of the stitching. You can see I have a bit of a loose stitching here as well, which isn't in an ideal place. I'm going to have to snip that off. The belt is attached by Velcro at the back, as you can see. And at the front, we have the X logo, and we have the movie accurate design to the belt as well. No complaints. And we do have silicone on the stomach there with a belly button as well. Hopefully that's focusing in. And then we'll start off with the vest she's wearing. It's to replicate a denim vest. Again, it's a bit bland. There's no weathering on it. I'm not sure if there's supposed to be. I have to look back on the movie as to whether there should be some weathering on it. I do believe there should be weathering on the trousers though. However, it is what it is. In regard to the vest that she's wearing, it's plain black. It's got all the stitching done very well in it. All the buttons up as well look the part, and there is a bit of detail on those buttons, which is a nice little attention to detail. It sits quite nicely just above her waistline, and we have more of those buttons on the back. And then underneath that, we have her t-shirt, her Savage 1974 t-shirt in the movie. Printed quite well. It looks old, it looks retro. Kind of says, there we go, just pull that down there. It says World Tour. Then we have the Savage, and then we have the eagle on it as well. It all looks the part, and it's printed to look very retro looking. The tailoring on it is absolutely fantastic. I love the way the vest contours to her body. The sleeves on the t-shirt are they look like they're cut off, like it might have been a longer sleeve or something, because there's nothing there for the stitching, but when you put the arms down, you get a little flap at the sides here. I'd have to look back at the movie, but I do remember them being a little bit tighter to her arms in the movie, but I could be wrong. Like I said, I'd have to look back in the movie to check that out. So there we go for pretty much the body and the clothing that she's wearing on this very, very small petite figure that I'll put next to Wolverine very shortly in the images, in the photographs, and you'll get an idea how small she actually is. So moving on, we'll get a close-up on this head sculpt, and we'll have a look at the details and the paintwork on the sculpt. So here we are for the head sculpt for X-23. Daphne Keane, very young actress, 19 years old, born in 2005. Not a figure that you can put a whole lot of detail on a sculpt on such a young actress who has very, very little to no blemishes on her skin at such a young age. No wrinkles, no crow's feet. So very difficult figure to make a realistic looking, because she's so young and it's such smooth skin. There's not a wrinkle in her forehead. There's not a wrinkle at the sides of her eyes. She's so young, so very, very difficult to replicate a realistic figure. They can from this. So I think they've done a fantastic job. Now, I'm a little bit disappointed in the expression. I would have liked to have seen a more aggressive looking expression on her face. Even a slight open mouth expression. And please don't crucify me in the comments if those eyes aren't aligned. I was fiddling with them earlier on, and very difficult. The head sculpt is so small, very difficult. Just has a mole on the side of her face there that she has in real life, and you can see the hair just coming down, the strands of hair coming down at the front over her shoulders. And these ones here, these bits are a little bit flexible, so you can kind of maneuver them a little bit. And this side here also, you can just kind of maneuver them around a little bit. They're made of a very, very soft plastic, so you can kind of mess about with them a little bit. But unfortunately, as I said, the expression is just a little bit too bland. As for the sculpting of the hair, again, it's not Hot Toys' best sculpting for their hair. The join line where the hair comes apart is quite well done, but I've seen better sculpting. It is what it is. It's long hair. I think this figure could certainly have done with the artisan treatment, and I am wondering if she does make an appearance in Doomsday, are we going to get an artisan version of X-23? Maybe, possibly so. We will just have to see. And if I just get her to stand up there for a second, I'll grab her other hair attachment and we'll just swap it out, and we'll see the difference. So you just pull it off at the back like so, and pop on the more dynamic hair, and there you can see the hair at the side there just kind of waving out at the sides there. Not as dynamic as I kind of expected it to be. They've done a great job in the promo pictures to make it look more dynamic than it is, but with that said, for me it doesn't match the facial expression. If she's jumping through the air or doing an action pose or of any sort, that facial expression just doesn't match anything other than having her standing there and just making it look like the hair's blowing in the wind. But again, the sculpting of the hair on this one here is done really well. All the individual strands a lot better than the other one, if you ask me, because it's, like I said, it's supposed to be blowing in the wind, so it's all individual strands and, you know, quite well executed. So there we have it there for the head sculpt. And finally, just to put things in perspective here with height, as I said, she's a really small petite figure. I've just put her in between Deadpool and Wolverine, and you can see there that she only just about comes up to their shoulder height. So she is a really, really small petite figure. and she is in scale. She is that short in the movie. As you can see, in real life she is that short. So they are, for just some kind of perspective on how tall or how petite this figure is, and how small the head sculpt is, and how small the hands are, because it is such a tiny figure. So that pretty much wraps things up for the Hot Toys X-23. If you've made it this far, thank you very much for sticking it out. And if you haven't already, please do consider hitting that like and subscribe button. It really does help the channel out and help it grow. And I'm going to add this figure to my Hot Toys Deadpool and Wolverine playlist. I've left a link in the description below, or you can check it out on my channel. So I've left you with some pictures here. And like I said, thanks very much, and I will catch you on the next one. Take care.